Imagine you have a daughter, and she is about to get married to the man she loves. It's a happy day for everybody. Shortly after your son-in-law and your daughter got married, she ended up suffering a tragic accident where she died. Pretty sad, right? Well, what happened if the husband of your daughter ended up killing her? That's right, we're going there, ladies and gentlemen. I present to you case number 1 of season 1, episode 1 of Unsolved Mysteries Commentary, the case of Dave Davis. In 1981, October 1981 to be exact. Oh my god, that was 1 month before I was born, depending on when it happened in October. Anyway, 43-year-old Dave Davis and his 25-year-old wife, Sharon Davis, they went out for a horseback ride. According to Dave, the horse threw Sharon. Sharon fell to the ground and ended up dying due to injuries. However, not everything is as it was that Dave claimed. We are about to find out all about that right about now. Let's pull this up. There you go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, right off the bat, I don't know what it is, especially in the first couple seasons of Unsolved Mysteries. They really knew how to build atmosphere. The music was awesome. The visual effects were awesome. The audio was awesome. I always believe that the first few seasons, like I would say, like definitely the first 2 seasons, maybe seasons 3 and 4 also. But once we hit season 5, when everything was really going and they were getting the sponsorships and everything, they became really kind of sanitized. But those first few seasons, they had this really rough guerrilla style recording, method, and this really shows it right here. Listen to the atmosphere and listen to listen to everything. And if you can, I know it's a little bit difficult to see it due to it being kind of faded, but try to watch it and everything.
On July 23, 1980, in a small Michigan farming community, newlyweds Dave and Shannon Davis prepared to go for a sunset horseback ride. Within an hour, Shannon was dead.
Okay, if I remember correctly, I think they're going to mention how she was not a seasoned or a professional horse rider. Basically, here's my thing. If I got married and my wife did not know how to securely ride a horse, I would not let her ride a horse by herself. She would ride with me until she was comfortable and she was trained enough to actually handle a horse. Riding a horse is like driving a vehicle. If you don't treat that horse with care and respect, that horse is going... It could be end on a bad note for you, I guess.
According to Dave, Shannon was not an experienced rider. When they reached the edge of the woods, she lost control and fell off the horse, striking her head violently on the ground.
Now, this actually seems like it would make a lot of sense. And in the very beginning, it did make sense for everybody involved, the parents and, whatnot. But this is actually going to bring up a good question that I actually have. And you're going to find out what that question is pretty quickly.
Dave's simple and plausible story was immediately accepted by the couple's family and friends.
Well, I don't blame them for believing him. He was married to Sharon, and she must have loved him enough, and trusted him enough to marry him. Why would they really question him that soon,
I felt that Shannon's marriage was made in heaven. I really felt this. I had began to love David.
I described him probably to a lot of people as a man's man.
Me, maybe it's because I'm really cynical and everything. And part of me wants to see it from their perspective, but it's really hard for me to trust anybody. For them to trust him, it's like, how can you trust this guy? But then again, like I said, they married his daughter, so that's kind of like a reason. But maybe it's also because this happened over 40 plus years ago, so you have that knowledge of everything that happened. Maybe if it happened yesterday and he came out and said, she fell, she hurt her head and everything. Maybe because it would have happened just yesterday, you'd be like, oh, okay, well, maybe, it's a bad accident. Things happen. But maybe it's because it's been 40 plus years. I've watched this case over and over. I've examined this case over and over. I've read all the file about it. Maybe it's because of that. It's like, how can you trust this guy? But then again, I have to kind of step back and look at it look at myself. It's like, well, I already know what happened, so yeah.
He was an outdoor person, hunting, fishing. He just was very manly and very likable.
I disagree with that. What does being manly and an outdoor person have to do with being likable? I'm a fucking reclusive motherfucker who sits here that does, that makes commentary videos based on his favorite TV show, who likes Transformers, who, likes, let's see what I like. I like video games. Doesn't that mean I can be a likable person? I think it could be a likable person without needing to meet certain, circumstances. Like, oh, he was an outdoor person. He's likable. I could be an issue. I'm just looking too much into it also.
And she'd say, isn't he neat, Mom? And I thought he was neat. I thought he would protect her from anything. I had no idea.
And that's actually the way it should be. Now, call me old-fashioned. And this is also coming from the fact that I'm not even married. But isn't it supposed to be that when you get married, both the husband and wife kind of watches each other's backs? When the husband takes on the world, the wife is there to help him take on the world. If the wife is having issues, the husband is there to help her up. Isn't that the way it's supposed to be? Like, one for all and all for one when you're married, basically?
Or what he was really like.
After Shannon's death, Bob and Lucille Moore began to discover that Dave Davis was not the man he seemed to be. They began to find clues in Dave's behavior, which led them to believe that their daughter's death was not an accident. Dave Davis has now disappeared.
Oh my God. A criminal. Acting like a criminal. I just miss those old days when criminals actually had honor. You know what? I just robbed that bank over there. I'm going to return that money, and I'm going to turn myself in. I miss those old days of the honorable criminals. I'm being sarcastic there. Criminals, in my opinion, are a very cowardly bunch. They will do whatever possible to avoid punishment when it comes to committing a crime. They committed a crime, they're going to do everything possible to not have to face justice.
Warrant out for his arrest. But the Moores are afraid that their son-in-law may have gotten away with a perfect crime.
There's no such thing as a perfect crime. There's no such thing as a perfect crime. I like to think that no matter how long it takes, the truth will always come out. I think that's what will ultimately happen. It may take a day, a week, a month, or even years. But I would like to think that if a crime happens, there's a chance it can be solved. Granted, some crimes have never been solved, like Jack the Ripper, for example. But deep down inside, I have to believe that no matter how long it takes, the wheels of justice, although they may be slow, the wheels of justice always catch up.
Hospital, Shannon was pronounced dead of the injuries caused by her fall. Minutes later, Shannon's parents were surprised and upset when Dave insisted that their daughter's body be cremated.
And I said, can we take Shannon back to Toledo for burial?
Okay, now here's a question I want to throw out. Now, I've never been married, so I don't really, I don't know anything about this sort of stuff. But here is the question I have: when it comes to, and who has the rights, basically, when it comes to the burial of a loved one, who ultimately has that final right? Is it, she was married, you would think that if she's married, the husband should have that final right to say, what should happen to the wife. Yeah, she makes it known that she wants to be buried, for example, but ultimately, isn't it up to him? Isn't it up to him? My mom, when she passed away, she wanted to be cremated. And I was fine with that. I was her only son. She was not married, so it basically fell upon me. She wanted to be cremated. But since I was her only son, wouldn't I have the right, like, instead of, cremating her, maybe I would have wanted her to be buried near me. That way I could go to the cemetery to see her every Sunday if I want to. Granted, I cremated her because that was her final wish, but ultimately, doesn't the right of how the victim's remains, how they're handled, doesn't that ultimately fall upon the husband if they are married? I don't agree with this whole, the family trying to force their way on the husband. Now, granted, we all know the guy did it. However, if he was totally innocent and he wanted to cremate her because he believed in cremation and they were married, who's, it's not their choice in the matter, in my opinion. It's not their choice in the matter, it's his. At least that's the way I view it. Ultimately, the question is who has the rights to determine what happens to a loved one when they pass away. Okay.
Please, let's take her back to Toledo. Let's take her home.
That's not what she wanted.
I suppose our voices were getting a little bit loud because I don't believe in cremation. I knew Shannon didn't want that.
This is what she wanted.
I felt so strongly that if he was going to insist on it, I was going to go try and find a judge and get a temporary restraining order.
I just don't like that idea. Now, here, let's actually do some quick research, shall we? Okay, so I basically just turned on, or I set up a screen capture because I would like to actually research the rights about, death and who has the ultimate right, Okay, let's see here. First, let's see, where did this happen again? Here, let me pull up the case information. Where did this happen? This happened in, hold on. This happened in, it doesn't say where it happened. Well, they were married in, okay, let's say, for example, they were married in Sylvania, Ohio. They were married in Sylvania, Ohio. Let's see here. Oh God, I don't know what to ask. Let's see. Who has the final say in how remains are handled? Husband or family? I'm just curious. Let's see here. In the general, the final say on how remains are handled typically falls to the husband or the next of kin. I know you can't. Here, let me actually do this. Here, let's do this. I actually have another setup here. Let me see here. Where is it? Is this it? Okay. Let me turn off my camera. There you go. So we have here okay, so my question was, who has the final say in how remains are handled, husband or family? The co-pilot answered, in general, the final say on how the remains are handled typically falls to the husband or next of kin. So basically either the husband or the child. Let's see here. If there is a disagreement among family members, the legal hierarchy usually prioritizes the husband's wishes and especially, Sorry, guys. I thought I could highlight that. I can't. The fuck? Hold on. Okay. God damn, I hate it when it does that. Let's see here. Hierarchy prioritizes the husband's wishes, especially if he is the surviving spouse. In some cases, if the husband is unavailable, the next of kin hierarchy is followed, which may include the surviving spouse, children, or parents. Okay, but the fact is by the sounds of this, okay, but actually let's continue first. It is important to consider the deceased's wishes as they often have the final say in their funeral arrangements. Ultimately, the decision may vary based on the state laws and personal circumstances, so it's advisable to consult legal resources or professionals for specific guidance. But by the sounds of it, it would fall. Hold on. It would fall here. Let me try this again. There it goes. It would actually fall upon possibly the husband or the next of kin. Now, granted, we already know what Dave Davis did to his wife and everything. So, it could be that it was just, the fact that, the family was, or Shannon's parents, they were basically kind of, resisting is the best word. They were kind of resisting their daughter being cremated, and because of that, they were actually able to discover what actually happened to Shannon. But ultimately, from what I just showed here, possibly, the husband, he could have, I'm guessing he could have possibly pushed, could have pushed his own way and had her cremated, because it sounds like normally it would fall upon, the husband or next of kin. And maybe if he took it to court and he's like, I want my wife to be cremated. I believe in cremation. She's my wife. I want her to be cremated. It could have been that the judge could have said, hey, he is married to Shannon. Legal precedent says husband or next of kin. Ultimately, that could have been what could have happened, but because of the family was really, they really were lucky this time around. Them being able to resist their daughter being cremated, it actually led to the revelation that she was injured. No, not injured, but she was murdered, basically.
To stop him from doing it.
That night, Lucille couldn't sleep. She remembered that her husband Bob had caught Dave in a lie about life insurance.
One thing I've always heard when it comes to these type of cases on Unsolved Mysteries, they always like to break it down amongst, when it comes to questionable people who die under suspicious circumstances. They normally say it's either due to money, romance, or drugs. I'll let you figure out which one this one is.
Bob says, David, do you have insurance on Shannon? He said no. And it just shot right through me. I remembered Shannon coming home from her honeymoon the very next day, saying David took out a large life insurance on me.
That right there, that would have had me concerned. That would have had me concerned. If my daughter came over to visit me right after she was married and she goes, Dad, I'm like, what's up, my daughter? Or what's up, what's up, pumpkin? And he goes, instead of her saying how great, marriage is, how much she loves her new husband, she actually goes to me and goes, Dad, he took out this life insurance policy on me. That would have been like a fucking red alert in the back of my head. It's like, not even married a full week and he already took out a life insurance policy. Something is not right here, ladies and gentlemen.
That was the first lie I picked up.
Three days later, Shannon was buried. Bob and Lucille Moore noticed that Dave seemed unmoved.
I blessed the body of Shannon with the holy water
After the funeral, Shannon's parents found out that Dave had lived a life of deceit. He bragged that he'd been wounded in Vietnam. His own parents said he was never in the service.
That's one thing that always upsets me, is when you have somebody basically falsely claiming that they were in the armed service, because it takes a lot of courage to go to war into an armed conflict zone and make it out alive. You know, that takes a lot of courage. And it really upsets me when you have people going, you know, saying, oh, I was at Vietnam or I was in Desert Storm, and come to find out they were not. That just upsets me a lot.
Well, all of this was crowding in on me, and all I could think inside is, David, did you kill my daughter? And it just was there. I knew that he had murdered my daughter. I didn't know what to do with it. I felt ashamed. I just felt like I was going crazy inside.
2 days after the burial, 6 separate insurance companies contacted.
Not 1, not 2, not even 4, 6. 6 insurance claims were put in on Sharon. I'm sorry, if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and smells like a duck or whatever, it's a duck. You could tell what this guy was wanting to do. He didn't marry Shannon because he actually loved her. He wanted to get rich quick. And by the sounds of it, he was going to do anything possible.
To the funeral home, requesting copies of Shannon's death certificate. Her death left Dave Davis the beneficiary of $330,000. Bob Moore.
If it was me and my wife died and I got a lot of money like that, what I would do is I would put all that money into like a trust for my kid. All that money, you know, when my mom died, she left me money. And the thing is, I looked at that money for several years. And I'll be honest, I would give it all up if I could have it back, you know, have her back. I would give it all up, you know, like, to me, money is useless if you don't have somebody you can use it on, you know, like, I would die to have her back, but I would give up everything, you know. If I had a kid and my wife died, I wouldn't want the money myself. I wouldn't want the money. I would put that money into some sort of trust for my kid that once they hit, you know, whatever the legal age is, you know, they can use it. It would be their money, you know. But I would not want that money. I would not want that money because ultimately, you know, that money it's a reminder of like what it took for you to get that money. I have this money, but I in a way, I kind of hate it because I have to look at it and it's there because of the fact my mom is gone. My mom is gone, and ultimately, you know, she was, you know, her body, you know, she's gone, and, you know, it was reduced down to money, and I would rather give that up just to have her back, you know.
Then discovered that Dave may have been involved in other insurance scams.
He burnt the farm down across the road, and he had other fires, and the fake injury from when he worked for the automotive company. So I think he was just out to live on insurance money.
Yeah, that's the way it mainly goes. They start off doing small crimes. It's like serial killers. They start off like killing little animals, and then they move up to humans. It's kind of like the same way with, you know, insurance fraud. But fraud. I think that's the right term. They'll do small things like, say, set a car on fire, set a barn on fire, something small that can get money, and then, a small amount of money, and then they will move on to something else that can garner a lot of money, like a human being. And that's what this guy, I think that's what he did. He was tired of doing small petty crimes, and he decided, you know what? I'm tired of lighting fences on fire. I'm tired of lighting cars on fire. I want the big bucks. 6 insurance claims. Oh my God.
And he just kept getting bigger and bigger all the time. He started out with a simple fire, and now he was up to the point where he was going to collect big insurance.
At Bob and Lucille Moore's insistence, Shannon's body was exhumed.
That would kill me. The thought of having to watch the fact that I had to put her in the ground the first time, that would destroy me. The fact that they would have to take her out would devastate me. And the fact that ultimately they would have to put her back in the fucking ground while the person who killed her is still walking, that would just enrage me. That would fucking enrage me. My daughter, she is forever bound to lay in the goddamn earth while that piece of shit is still able to walk. That's like a grave injustice.
The medical examiner found the injuries on the body consistent with a fall from a horse.
There's always something else. You gotta look deeper.
An unknown drug, however, were found in Shannon's body. But the medical report still ruled Shannon's death an accident. 3 months later, an article in the Detroit Free Press exposed Dave's alleged insurance swindles. The case was reopened, and Dave moved to Florida.
Of course. A criminal, that the heat was starting to get put on the criminal, and the criminal ran? Who would have fucking thought? Who would have thought that a criminal was going to act like a criminal and run? Like I said, I miss the days of the honest, honorable criminals. Whatever happened to those type of guys?
Detective Don Brooks was assigned to the investigation.
And the information that was contained in that newspaper article was phenomenal. I thought if this is even 50% accurate, we're on to something here.
Brooks contacted the toxicologist who had earlier found traces of the unknown drug in Shannon's body.
The fact that they didn't even know what the drug was, that should have raised alarms in the beginning when they said that they found drugs, but they're still going to say it was an accident. Like, if it was something that could be easily discovered, like say, like it was alcohol or whatever, that I could understand that. But if they say it was some sort of chemical and they don't know what it is, and they're still saying it was an accident, I'd be really kind of, I'd be like, wait, what? You're telling me my daughter, she had something in her body. You don't even fucking know what it is. You don't even know what it is that's in her body. Yet you're still going to say it was an accident?
I explained to him that we had a very large number of chemicals that we were looking at. There's over 250,000 chemicals in common use. And we had searched for and ruled out maybe 1,000. And I said, what I need is some help.
Is that the hematograph right there?
This is it. You see the peak is right here. And you see how nice and clean it is? Because it's so clean, that means that I think it's a drug. Mm-hmm. This is important to the case. It's got to be if we can identify what that is.
He asked me, actually, for information.
It's a foreign substance. That should be more than enough to basically say, hey, we got it. We should be treating this as something other than a tragic accident. Do some research. Was Sharon known for getting drunk? Was Sharon known for getting, high on drugs? If the answer is no, then you should really be wondering to yourself, why the hell does she have these substances in her body? Why did she have these substances in her body? Was Sharon on any kind of prescribed medications that could leave these kind of signatures in her body? No. Well, if she's not on medication, she's not a drug addict, and she's not drinking, why the hell does she have these chemicals in her body? They should have really been thinking like that, you know.
Information about Davis's background, and one of the things I told him was that he was a dirt farmer, and he had some large animals on the farm.
Okay, now I've heard this term dirt farmer. I've heard this term dirt farmer before, and I'm kind of curious about what is a dirt farmer. Let's take a look here. Okay, hold on. Let's clear that out. There you go. What is a dirt farmer? I've always heard that. I was like, what is a dirt farmer? Look at this. It's giving me all these weird suggestions. Okay, now it's starting. Okay, what is a dirt farmer? Let's take a look here. Okay, a dirt farmer is a farmer who typically earns a living by farming. God damn, I hate what this. Farming the land. Here, let me turn off my camera. Farming the land often without help of hired hands or tenants. The term is often used to describe small-scale farmers who rely on manual labor and limited resources to cultivate the land. Dirt farmers may work on less productive land and often face economic challenges, but they maintain a deep connection to their land and community. Huh. So why don't they just say the guy was a farmer, you know, like a small-scale farmer? So now I know what actually dirt farmers mean. You know, that's weird. Okay, well. So basically the guy was a farmer. He was a farmer.
Dr. Forney and I then discussed the idea of contacting veterinarians in the area that may have serviced Dave Davis.
I'm Don Brooks with the State Police. I talked with you a little bit earlier.
That's right, Don. Listen,
I happened to ask 2 or 3 of the different vets in the area if they knew of any drugs that may affect the muscular system or the nervous system.
What they should have done was, as soon as they said, okay, because they're going to say, I think they say yes. The minute that they said yes, they should give us a list. Give us a list of these chemicals that Dave has been known for using. They give him the list. Okay, here's a list of the stuff. He goes, see if any of the signatures of those chemicals that they said that he uses, see if anything matches what was pulled up in that graph that they pulled the information from the remains of Sharon. People don't get fucking chemicals in their body normally without doing anything. Chemicals are normally in the body by force, basically. Like, it isn't just something that you magically spawn with. You don't normally spawn with poisons just inside your body. Something has to happen. You either ingest it or you inject it or something. It isn't just something that just appears.
That they would use on large farm animals. And when I did so, one of the veterinarians I talked to provided me the name of a drug.
Check it out.
Forney tested
Check out. See
that
what it
drug.
says.
An animal tranquilizer. It matched perfectly the sample taken from Shannon's body. Now Brooks needed to connect the drug to Dave Davis.
We were able to determine that several years ago, Dave Davis took part in a deer hunting camp at which members of the camp used this drug to hunt deer with bow and arrows.
Shannon was exhumed a second time.
God. This is what I was talking about. Okay, so check this out. Going back to what I said before. It would kill me the fact that I had to put my daughter in the ground. That would kill me. It upset me that they had to bring her out. It enraged me that they put her back in. Now they have to take her out a second time, basically. They're taking her out of the ground for a second fucking time. And yet they're going to have to ultimately put her back into the fucking ground a third time. Can you imagine how upset you would be feeling at this point? You know, every time you start to fucking heal and grieve and everything, and she's constantly being pulled right back out of the ground. That would drive me nuts.
Injection marks were found. One on Shannon's shoulder and one on her wrist.
Don Brooks called, and he said, bingo, they found Shannon is injected with something. And we're going to move now. We're going to get him.
And they didn't even bother to, why didn't they look for injections or anything? Couldn't they have found some, like, normally when they do an autopsy, you would think that they would look for something like a puncture mark or something.
On October 13th, 1981, a grand jury issued a first-degree murder warrant for Dave Davis. Detective Brooks believes that Dave Davis pushed or coaxed Shannon off her horse, wrestled her to the ground, then paralyzed her with a lethal tranquilizer. Brooks believes that Dave then struck her head on a rock so that the injuries would appear accidental.
I don't think there's any question that this is premeditated murder. I believe he married Shannon Davis to kill her and to profit.
I want to get him, and I want him to see him locked up. And I want him to feel at all times that we're breathing right down his back, because I will not let go. That can't bring her back, but put him away before he does it to some other girl, and he will. He will.
After our broadcast, a viewer recognized Dave Davis as an acquaintance living in American Samoa.
Okay, now, I know you can't really see the best here, but I kind of mentioned before how they sometimes normally they try to pick the actors to play the main characters, you know, the people that they're representing, that they try to look a little bit like him, okay? So the actor right here behind me, you see right here, that is the actor who played Dave Davis, right there. Does this actor look anything like the guy you see to the left of me? No, he doesn't. It's you know, maybe they were under time constraints, you know, but it's just like this guy doesn't even look anything like him. He doesn't look anything like him. Hell, if I dropped like 200 pounds and you put glasses on me, I would look closer to Dave Davis because, you know, of the balding and everything, you know. But that's just me. That's just me.
A small island in the South Pacific. Davis was arrested 9 days later by FBI agents. At the time of his arrest, Davis was living in this house with a 20-year-old.
This guy Dave Davis likes him young, doesn't he? When he married, what was it again? Hold on. When he married Shannon, he was 43 years old. She was 25. And then when they found him, I didn't see. Let's see here. When was he located? Let's see here. Let's go down. I'm on the Unsolved Mysteries wiki. See here, 1988. So he was roughly 50. He was 43 in 81. And then yes, he was 50. 88, 71, or 81 to 78, or 88 is 7 years. He was 43. He would have been 50, and he married a 20-year-old. This guy, not only is he a killer, he is a legitimate creeper going for a girl not even half his age, roughly. What the fuck, dude? What the hell is wrong with you?
Samoan wife. He told her that his first wife had died in a tragic accident. 3.5 weeks later, Davis was returned to Michigan to stand trial for murder.
Any comment on the charges against you, Mr. Davis?
I didn't do it.
Liar.
Police say your wife was poisoned.
I didn't do it.
You're a liar. You fucking liar.
After only 2.5 hours of deliberation, a Michigan jury convicted Dave Davis of first-degree murder. For Shannon's parents, the verdict brought an end to their 9-year struggle for justice.
This is what we waited for, and we got what we wanted. He's going to be locked up the rest of his life, and that's what we wanted.
But we'll go on the rest of our life missing her. That's what I said. He gave us the death penalty. Now we're giving it to him.
And here, let me read it to you. I'm going to turn off my camera and I'll read it to you. Dave Davis was found guilty of first-degree murder and received a life sentence without parole. After serving 25 years, he died in a prison hospital. I don't know about you, but I am the type of person that believes in an eye for an eye. And basically, if you take somebody's life without there being a necessary reason, like let's say you're watching this, you, yes, you. Let's say you are married, or better yet, you're walking your daughter to school. You're a few steps behind your daughter. Somebody comes up and starts hitting her with a baseball bat. You should have that right to defend your family member with force equal to or more than to deter them. I feel that murder is only acceptable if it's in the utter defense of saving somebody. And then when, a killer is caught, like this guy here, they should be forced to pay with their life. They took a life. It's like a debt, basically. They took a life. They need to pay back what they did. The sad thing is, ladies and gentlemen, we as a society, we are often told that we have to be better than the criminals, and that's why we got to give them a life sentence, because we're better than them. We're better than them. We got to show them compassion. My question is, where are the criminals' compassion for their victims? Where was Dave Davis's compassion for Sharon when he brutally killed her? Okay, so let's actually do something I normally do for the my Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries little companion series to this that I do, which is I go to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki. So let's do this, and then this. And this is basically where I'm going to go. And normally on the Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries little companion series that I do, I would read this entire article. But since we just saw the video, we pretty much know what happened. So I'm just going to kind of scroll down. And I just want to see, like, normally they put the most up-to-date information towards the end. So I want to see if there's anything here that is not part of the video itself. So let's see here. David's defense attorneys claim that Shannon's death was an accident and that the science surrounding the test for the chemical chloride was flawed. It wasn't flawed. It was in her body. You don't get this stuff in her body. Your body doesn't fucking just instantly start spawning the stuff. No. On December 5th, 1989, after only 2.5 hours of deliberation, Michigan jury convicted him of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Bob and Linda, the verdict brought the end of their 9-year struggle for justice. On November 9th, 2014, after serving 25 years, David died in the prison hospital at the age of 70. Sadly, both Bob and Lucille have since passed away. This is something I always kind of talk about. I always want these kind of cases where, like say a family member is murdered. The family should be able to find out before they die who it is that took their loved one. And I'm glad to say that this is one of those cases that actually happens. Sadly, as we, go through this entire series, there will be times, especially in this episode, you're going to find out pretty quickly. We're going to find out that somebody dies and the family never even gets that sense of justice. Okay, let's go to the Find a Grave. We have a Find a Grave, which is a website I love to go to. It helps us learn a little bit more about who the person was that died. We have an entry for Shannon and one for David. I am not going to look at David's. I refuse to give criminals any more attention than they're deserving. The only reason that I even mentioned that piece of filth is because he was actually part of the case itself. But I'm not going to go to his find a grave to find out who he is and what what he did and all this other stuff. No, killers, criminals, they do not deserve that sort of humility. They are in prison for a reason. They didn't win a round of Jeopardy and won an all expense paid trip to prison. No, they did some horrible shit to end up in prison. And because of that, he doesn't get any recognition. Let's check out Shannon's. Okay, so Shannon Lou Moore. She was born September 1st, 1954 in Toledo, Lucas County, Ohio, USA. Her date of death was July 23rd, 1980. She was only 25. Jeez. In a few years, I will have my age would be double what hers was when she passed away. That's sad. That's sad. She passed away in Pittsford, Hillsdale County, Michigan. She was buried at Calvary Cemetery in Toledo, Lucas County, Ohio. And she is in section 37. And let's look at some of the pictures that we have. Okay. She looks like such a nice person, It's freaking sad that somebody who marries somebody that they love and come to find out the person that they thought that loves them doesn't love them. They only married the person, David only married her. That way he could, do harm to her and profit from it. What kind of person does that? And then for her family members, we have her parents, Robert and Lucille. And wow. They are just about to turn almost 100 years old pretty soon. Damn. It's always jarring when you see some of these dates of birth, like 1926 and 1927. I've seen cases on Unsolved Mysteries where I'll go here and like you'll find the birth date to date of birth to be like in the real late 1800s. It's that tells you how old this show is getting, ladies and gentlemen. And then we have flowers left by 1,080 people. Damn, I could not believe that. Like, it really goes to show how cruel people can be. It really shows how cruel people can be. When I return in the next video, it will be with the next case, so stay tuned. And I'll be right back.